Hey everybody, this is Natasha Watts and you are watching The Miss Gabie Show.
To check the pockets of my polo ski jacket. So I said, you shouldn't be checking me. You're a man. You want to get a female officer here, right? He says to me, little girl, as long as I don't put my hands in your panties, I can check you. And I looked at him, I said, okay, so you go right ahead and check. Of course, there was nothing except like a Snicker bar or some cookies or something. And I said, little boy, you'll be lucky to have a job tomorrow.
Well, you're lucky. You talked to the police officer like that.
Well, this was
1980. Yeah, you had to talk about it. That's good.
Well, this was also like 1987, maybe about 1987 or so, 1988. So I say two things. One, I usually don't encourage. I have a 24-year-old son, so I don't encourage him to do that. As a female, you get away with a little bit more. You know what I mean? In a small town, you get a little bit more. And when the cops know, when certain cops know that they're wrong and they know that you know your rights, they kind of, once you show them and you're confident, and they kind of teeter back a little bit. So, of course, they didn't get fired, but I did go to friends on the force and say, listen, this is what happened. Just check that for me because I'm not going through that again. Now, in the city, they have a civilian complaint review board for those who don't have the pull to go to people and say, can you check your colleagues, please?
Right.
But when the civilian complaint review board, when they do get complaints, how much power do they have? Like, how much leverage do they have to actually do something with those complaints? Because we don't hear much of that.
Yeah, the civilian complaint review board, they receive thousands of complaints against police officers on a regular, and they don't even investigate all of them. Just based on the complaints, they'll make a determination whether it's even worth investigating. And then when they do investigate, only a small percentage of the cases will they find a determination that the police violated someone's rights, and then they'll just send it to the police commissioner. They may make a recommendation of a punishment, suspension, or take away vacation days, but they can't bring criminal charges against the police. The city just appointed a new inspector general who's been looking at some chokeholds that the police have been using the last 5 years, and they found in 10 instances police have been using chokeholds, and it's against the policy. But there were no repercussions when they used it. This civilian complaint review board would make recommendations, but it's up to the police commissioner to decide what the ultimate punishment is. And when the police see that they're not really getting punished severely, they're going to continue in that behavior. So
what do you think?
We need more accountability. We need more accountability. It's gonna take police officers getting fired and being prosecuted, because we know there are some police officers that are violating people's rights.
The police officers that the few that got caught raping women on the job, I don't even think they were prosecuted.
They were prosecuted in Manhattan. It's the same case, because I remember.
Were they convicted?
They were convicted of not the felony charge. It was, if I'm not mistaken, a misdemeanor. They were acquitted of the most serious offenses, but I believe both of them were fired.
Wow. They should have been fired and convicted. That's serious. So now, officers, do they have a legal right to actually protect and serve the community, or is their job to protect and serve businesses?
Well, no, they have to.
Is that part of their oath? I guess what I'm saying.
To protect and serve the community, and the
community
consists of the civilians, but the businesses also have a right to be protected as well. So they have to make sure that everyone is safe and secure. That's their job.
It seems
not
like
happening.
it seems like nowadays, like at least up until the Garner situation, it seems like the police was trying to do prevention more than it was, you know, looking, you know, it's like they was trying to predict crime was happening, not
Right.
prevention. They was predicting crime, you know, anticipating crime.
That's when we talk about the hunch. They have a hunch that someone is about to commit a crime, and that's when the police try to stop people and frisk them. And again, hundreds of thousands of people. I think last year it was more than 700,000 people stopped and frisked without any legal basis. Matter of fact, that's one reason why Mayor de Blasio won, because he said he was going to end that stop and frisk where the police didn't have the legal authority. So police are not stopping and frisking as many people as they have in the past. But guess what? Crime is still going down.
Right.
The police commissioner, the police are saying, no, let us continue to stop and
He wants
frisk.
the quotas brought back up because there's no revenue being generated since because of the Taylor law, the police can't strike. So now their job action is to not stop and frisk, not write desk appearances for public urination, trespass, whatever kind of nonsense they were doing before, because they thought that, guess what, the animals are going to start running the zoo if we start turning our back. And what we showed them was there are no animals in this zoo,
Right.
or you are the animals in this zoo, because what you predicted was going to happen just did not. They thought there was going to be some murderous crime spree.
And that hasn't happened.
It has
Right.
not happened.
Right.
So what they actually have proven is we don't need as many of you. We can cut your funding. We don't need as many officers. We can probably get rid of a good eighth of you.
It
It backfired on them. You proved our point better than you proved your own point.
Right, and well, it's up to the mayor to reduce. I don't think he would reduce the amount of police officers, because he definitely doesn't want crime to spike, and so he wouldn't take that chance. But the city council is about to introduce legislation to make it a crime for a police officer to place someone in chokehold.
Okay.
The police union, you know, is
going to fight that.
they're
tooth and
fighting
nail.
it. They oppose it. Mayor de Blasio, interesting enough, said that if the city council passes it, he's going to veto it, because he believes that there's no need to make it a crime.
I mean,
Really?
like
but I think he's trying to get back in the good graces
Right.
of the police department.
But with the Garner situation, the guy was standing up, but you could see his hands was just still kind of like, you know, the guy put his
They
hands
were in
and he
plain
made the
sight.
mistake of, you know, defending the little block, but then you could visualize his hands in the air saying, you know, like, and once the
Right,
guy
they were in
had him
plain
in the
sight.
lock, that was just excessive. I mean, then they stood on top of him with the knee in the chest, and you have 4 or 5 police officers.
Quite honestly, I don't know how anyone could look at that, and you can tell me not from a prosecutorial standpoint, just from the standpoint of a man as a civilian. Watching that video, aside from it just being tragic, it didn't really give me a sense of security of having the police around, because I'm thinking, you guys are trained for hand-to-hand combat and tactics and weaponry when you go through the academy. And 6 of you could not take this guy down. I don't care how big he was. It took 6 of you. Now, 6 of you couldn't get one guy down. You can't defend yourself. How can I expect to be safe and you can defend me? Like, it's just, we really don't, it needs to be cut. We don't need that many of you.
Well, that's why the mayor and the police commissioner is saying we need better training. Everybody, all the police officers have to be retrained again. But police officers have discretion. There was no need to put him in a chokehold.
Right.
This was a minor offense. It's a violation. It wasn't a crime selling loose cigarettes.
He actually said to the officer by name, which means that he had an encounter with him before.
He was harassed by him
They
several
know him.
times.
I'm gonna get a little bit more technical, not to cut you. Let's take it from a medical perspective. If he's been locked up and you said that you saw him here, you locked him up, you hear the officer saying that he locked him up a few times, they disclosed that.
Mm-hmm.
You already know that this person probably has a medical condition, because if he has asthma at the capacity he does, I'm quite sure he received some kind of treatment medically inside of a jail facility.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. So it's speculation, but you can surmise that that's what happened. Sure, but that's why we need to know what was asked of the officers and the witnesses in the grand jury.
It seems almost like they knew each other in the conversation.
Well, they said he had been harassed. The wife knew this officer also because he has been harassed by that officer previously.
By the same officer.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like I would find it hard for a person of his stature to die of a heart attack who's been incarcerated. And I worked in a jail facility before. If a person coming with the slightest tinge of chest pain, they automatically shipped to an infirmary. And I'm quite sure there is some kind of medical documentation to prove that this man has been treated for that kind of condition inside the jail facility.
Right, but that's not something an officer might readily know on the street. I mean, not a beat officer.
I mean, we speculate now, but
a beat officer does not typically keep up on the medical records of an inmate.
But he's not a beat. He's anti-crime, which is different.
Once that person goes to a state or a jail facility, the officer's ties to him are cut. It's not like he says, "Oh, I put this person away for 30 years. Let me see what he's doing next. Has he been sick?" He's on to the next person trying to get the next
Usually
arrest.
when these anti-crime officers arrest the person and bring him to the precinct, and that's may question him. But Mr. Garner, he's not serving any time there. He gets released,
Right.
so they really may not know of his condition. But when EMS came, what did they do?
He was
They
already
didn't do
dead. They
anything.
didn't have to do anything. He was already dead.
But they still have to
They
give
weren't
some
aware. They didn't even try to do CPR.
No, he was dead.
They
When they
didn't
showed up,
think he
he
was-
was
they
dead.
didn't-
Did
they
you see
didn't know
him
he was
flopping around when they tried to
No,
go
he wasn't
on the side?
moving. He wasn't moving.
His heart was
moving.
hand.
But
He was dead. His arm
It's hard
flopped,
to tell
his
if you
head.
got your knee in the guy's back. You know what I mean? You got your knee in the guy's back in the chokehold with the other hand. The guy got the chokehold. You got two guys holding him down.
What could they have done besides put him in a chokehold? A taser? They could have tased him, right?
How
They
about
could
he
have
wasn't doing anything but selling cigarettes? They didn't need to do any of that. They didn't need to taser him. They need to do anything.
But again, the police policy, the theory is broken windows. These minor crimes, let's put an end to them so we won't get to the serious offenses. So Mr. Garner had been arrested about a dozen times for the same offense.
For selling Lucy. So he's not going to turn into a murderous on a murderous crime spree tomorrow. His thing is selling Lucy's.
Right, and that's why the family has probably has a good civil case.
So now if he's been arrested 12 times, I'm quite sure somewhere along the line he's been analyzed or assessed as having a medical condition. I can just almost feel it. If we dig further enough, it probably would be there.
So maybe it'll come out in a civil lawsuit, but we don't know if it came out during the grand jury investigation.
Well, my thing is, even if he was assessed in a jail, a county jail, or a prison, does not necessarily mean that officers on the street would know that information. You know what I mean? It's not, like I said, the officers, once you're arrested and you go to a state prison or a county jail, their ties to you are cut. Once that conviction is done, they don't do follow-ups with the person
I would like to know what they collect from. This is getting topic now because I would like to know what they collect from him. Because most people that are diabetic, extreme asthma, or some kind of condition that requires massive attention like he does, have a bracelet. Did he have some kind of form of identification
like
on him to disclose that? Yeah.
A lot of men, I think, don't want to wear that. Just like a lot of men don't like to go to the doctor.
Right.
A lot of men don't want to look vulnerable and wear a medical alert bracelet. So I don't know, but I would bet 9 out of 10 he didn't have a medical alert bracelet on. But bigger than that, the officer.
That's not a good look. You're saying
it's not a good look in the hood. The officer that was brought before the grand jury also had several cases where he was brought in for harassment and using
excessive force
previously.
He had a history.
So if anyone should be subject to this broken windows law, it should be him, because it escalated to murder.
And that's why
where there's smoke, there's fire. Right.
That's why we need the accountability.
Mr. Garner had 12 arrests of selling Lucy's. He did not turn out to be a murderer, but he turned out to be murdered. Mr. was whatever the cop's name was.
Pantaleone.
Pantaleone had X amount of lawsuits, and that were won against him for excessive force. Guess what? He turned out to be a murderer.
He shouldn't be an anti-force.
He shouldn't be a police officer at all. He should be in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But before
and that's the Miss Gabie opinion. Thank you very much. That's just my opinion. That was murder.
Yeah, death duty before this incident. That's why we need the accountability. We need to know which police officers are being sued and are being alleged to using excessive force. They shouldn't be on the street.
Right.
Oh, let me go a little bit further. You know, I know it's all science and it's scientific, but it's proven science. We have situations where cops are working out. They take in these creatinine.
Your creatine.
Yeah, these supplements and stuff that can increase hormonal levels.
Right.
Crazy.
So now basically
That's
hormonal levels could create situations where you can get cortisones, which is proteins that incite a flight mechanism.
Right.
It can incite rage. It's been proven. Now you have these cops that are working out with this thing and they
steroids.
Yeah, they get overly aggressive. And this Pantaleone thing, I like I said, it's all hearsay, but we could possibly think that at one time or another, could he have taken supplements to try to help him out? Because he seemed awfully...
And he wanted to show how strong he was.
That along with fear. There are a lot of them are afraid to work in our communities, and those who weren't are probably afraid now, especially with the 2 officers that were slain, which that's a whole nother story, because I don't think something's right about that.
That didn't happen. Did it happen? I mean, that area of Brooklyn is kind of regentrified now. It's very, we can go on record, it's very white. You know what I'm saying? It's not really a black neighborhood anymore.
Well, there's a whole bunch that's wrong with that story anyway.
Yeah.
But, so now, let's say going back to the officer in the Garner case, right? He's had all these previous complaints and lawsuits that had to be paid out.
Right.
And now he murders someone and there's no indictment. What now? That's it. That's just it?
Well, right now the family and their lawyer have asked the U.S. Attorney to investigate. So the Attorney General, Eric Holder, his office, they are investigating, considering whether to bring federal charges. Same thing in the Ferguson matter, Michael Brown case. The officer wasn't indicted, but the Justice Department is investigating and contemplating whether to bring federal charges. It'll be tough to bring federal charges, but if in any event, the family will sue. But there are a lot of people who believe that the police got away with murder, and that's why you had all these protests all around the country.
So now, like you said, that's considered double jeopardy if you can't bring him back to a grand jury to...
Well, you can, but not for the same charges. It's only double jeopardy if you brought it back for the same charge, correct? It would have to be a lesser charge or something that wasn't brought up the first time as part of the original indictment, correct?
Double jeopardy is not applicable because the double jeopardy just says you can't be prosecuted twice for the same offense after you've been found not guilty.
But he hasn't been prosecuted.
These officers haven't been found not guilty.
Right.
So they could be case could be presented to a different grand jury, especially if there's a determination made that the prosecutor really didn't present a strong enough case.
Didn't you have an issue with one of your Facebook friends? Now you have to go back and apologize because he was correct, and I knew he was correct when I saw
he wasn't correct in the proper action. I said he could not be. I always thought it was a double jeopardy standard where, okay, being that it was grand jury, but you're saying it's not grand jury, but he cannot be tried for that same charge.
He can.
He can be because he was never prosecuted. He
right.
wasn't even indicted.
He was never found guilty. He was never found not guilty.
If I'm a layman's term, to my little bit of law background, let's play with this, right? Double jeopardy means you went before a jury, you went to trial. Let's say you went for murder. You're found not guilty, or you're not prosecuted. You're prosecuted, you're found not guilty. Now there's an appeal, or it gets brought back into court. You cannot be brought back in for murder because you've already been charged with that. But you can be brought back for a lesser charge, like manslaughter.
How in this situation could he be brought back?
He was never prosecuted. There was no indictment.
So I mean,
so they can investigate again. They can present the case to a different grand jury.
To a grand jury under a different
same charges.
On the same charge.
Because he was never.
It's unlikely though. It rarely happens, but you can't say it's not going to happen because of double jeopardy, Fifth Amendment. That's not the reason why. The only reason why they wouldn't do it is because they may say there's no new evidence.
Right.
So it may be unprecedented, but it's not because of double jeopardy.
You see, the key word, no new evidence, because most of the evidence was already portrayed in that situation.
Right, but that has nothing to do with the double jeopardy. He's saying that's why it probably won't come back. But the double jeopardy status does apply. He can be brought back.
But it has to be brought. Well, you can't use that same evidence.
It would have to be almost like
a
440 motion for new evidence to be brought back.
Yeah, but that allows a window for nothing to be represented. What new evidence are you going to be able to present?
New evidence pops up at any time. I've seen new evidence pop up 10 years later in cases.
It could, or like in the Ferguson
and
case.
murder has no statute of limitations.
Right, no statute of limitations for murder. Most other felonies is 5-year statute of limitations, except for sexual offenses, rape. Because now they're saying because of DNA, it shouldn't be a 5-year statute of limitation.
Right.
You know, so now most states it's at least 10 years, and then some states are saying there shouldn't be any statute of limitations.
According to right.
Yeah. But if you look at the, if you read the grand jury testimony in Ferguson, the prosecutor just let everybody testify, put all the evidence in.
But that's a strategy then.
The strategy for what though? What is the strategy? When you present a case to the grand jury, is to allow the grand jury to make a determination whether there's
being brought to trial.
There's probable cause to proceed the case to trial. You don't just put everybody in.
Right. This is not the trial.
Right.
This is you're presenting a case. Okay. Here's my story. Can we take this to trial or not?
But
not act as if you're holding an open trial.
They even put witnesses in that they didn't believe was credible.
But if you can't use that same evidence.
No, they can. They can.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to establish.
They can.
Okay. They can use that same exact evidence.
But they may get some other witnesses say, "Oh, I never testified, but I did see what happened," so that would be new evidence, so they can present that as well.
We don't see it happening often though in this situation. Like
we don't see it happening with police officers. We see it happening daily within the community.
Yeah. Okay.
So there lies the problem.
Yeah, it does happen with regular civilians, but there is a different standard the way regular civilians are prosecuted and police officers. And that's why people say it's not fair. But police officers get the benefit of the doubt, whether you like it or not. They do get the benefit of the doubt because they do. That's something I respect people who want to be police officers and go out there and risk their lives.
Everything, yeah.
Because, that's not something I wanted to do. But so you got to respect that.
I thought about the force, but I was like, seriously?
It's a very promising career
I thought about going on the force,
you know?
20 years. 20 years
and you're out.
Full pension and benefits.
I didn't see the benefit of riding around in a blue and white car to possibly be shot at. I'm like, if I'm going to take the chance of getting shot, I need straight detective work. I need to go deep cover. If I'm taking the risk of being my head blown off, it's not going to be because somebody took a pick at a blue and white squad car.
I go off the record, my God. Congratulations to my brother Anthony. He retired from sanitation this year. They have the same pensions and benefits as police officers. Right. So you could have let that come out even.
He worked out well.
Do they have the same, or is it a little? They don't have the 20 now. Is it 25?
His is 25.
Yeah. So it's still good, but
it's still good.
I think police and corrections.
No, to police corrections 25 too.
Oh, now
it's
25.
Now it's 25.
Yeah, because guys that we grew up with.
Oh yeah, like
they had a 20.
Those guys.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Now let's talk about
the video we just took a look at. Now this is amazing because we have an African American father that his opinion on keeping his son safe is, don't run if you see police officers unless you're wearing a jogging suit. You should be with loafers.
To follow up on you, his name is Lawrence Otis Graham.
Okay. Lawrence Otis Graham.
He's a prominent attorney, political activist, especially in Westchester. He's written several books.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a published author. Our Kind of People was one of his most successful books.
Okay. Well, I'm a little disturbed at his message. I mean, I understand. I'm a parent, so I get it. Keep your children safe by any means necessary. But when it comes to the point when you're infringing on your child's childhood and instilling that much fear where they're afraid to be children or they're afraid to walk out the house. You know, that for me, that's a bit much.
I think he said that they don't even go out in the evenings.
They don't go out in the evenings.
They can't wear hoods.
They can't wear hoodies. If you see police officers, don't run unless you're in a jogging suit because you have no business to be running. Forget that in the city. You could be running to catch a train. You could be running to catch the bus.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Right.
This is his idea of keeping his child safe.
Go in the store, make sure you smile.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I try to do that.
Well, I do that anyway. I'm just a smiling individual. Right. You know, I don't know. So what's your take on that? What do you do? How do you advise your children?
Well, I'm glad he wasn't my father,
right.
Because that's a little too. That's
too much.
Yeah,
right?
that is.
That's extra.
But as a parent, though, you know, you have to do what you feel is best for your kids,
right.
and you know, he wants his boys to wear khakis and certain
and
loafers, and that's the way he wants his kids to grow up. So.
I mean,
I want to give my kids the independence, and you know, so they create their own identity. I want to instill in them the to have the right values and do the right thing in certain situations. But you gotta let kids go out and experience life, make mistakes, learn from them.
But do you think he's installing fear?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Like, do you think it's some? I mean, again, you have that background. You can make a determination. Do you think psychologically he's installing fear? You know.
Well, it depends on how the kids are receiving it. I think one of the sons said, "Dad, you're not letting us grow up." So I'm not sure if they probably will be fearful when they go out in the community, but. He's probably also telling them be fearful when you see other black people that look like you as well.
Right.
So I'm sure he's had those conversations because his kids have there's more of a chance of them being victimized by someone that looks like them than by the police.
Well, now wait a minute. Now that leads us to, because I've been looking at the FBI crime stats and I pulled them up from 2010 to 2013. And it was very interesting to see that that may not necessarily be true. That's what's told to us. Mm-hmm. That's what looks good in the media to keep us, you know, quartered in our little sense of the world. But the FBI crime stats say, let's say for 1 year we might have 4,100 blacks who committed murders, and then you'll have 4,200 whites who commit murders. But now, if you have 4,000 blacks who committed rape, guess what the number is for rape by whites? Almost 10,000.
Also, the statistics show that whites commit more rapes than blacks.
Right. And wait a minute, not just more rapes. You know where we beat them with the FBI crime stats? I should have sent you the links. The FBI crime stats for those 4 years show that although we're neck and neck in murders, some years we have them, some years we don't. It's like a racehorse. It's like a race, right?
It's not a race you want to win.
We're not even close when it comes to
heinous crimes.
Heinous crimes, rape, or any type of sexual offenses. We know where we have them beat? Robbery. And that would make sense because of the economic status of our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But grand theft, rape, everything else, they've got us beat doubled off. It's amazing. So,
even in sexual profiles, they are exceeding.
Not just exceeding, double and tripling our numbers.
Wow.
So, I say that to say this. When I see, now I don't agree with rape as a woman. That's like a woman's biggest fear. I don't agree with rape and any type of sexual offenses off the rip. So let's start there. But now I need to know, when every time I turn on the news, which I don't watch often because I just can't stand all the negativity. Mm-hmm. When I do turn on the news and I hear almost every video is some rapist that they're searching for, and he's black or Spanish. Why, if you doubled and tripled us in numbers, where are all the videos of white males that they should be looking for that commit all these rapes?
That's
where are
the
they?
The media.
Yeah.
They thwart and misinform.
Do you know what let me tell you something. I asked one of my white male co-workers. I showed it to him, right? I showed him the FBI crime stats. This might have been for 2010, 2011. I just grabbed when I was making copies. I said, Glenn, tell me. I showed him. I said, tell me what your first thing is. What your first thought is when you look at this, right? And I showed him the whole thing. So I had the murders, the rapes, auto theft, gambling, the whole 9 yards. He looked at it, and the first thing he zeroed on was, and it was, rape was like, might have been like the second or third item on the list. You know what he said to me? He said, this tells me I need more black friends because my white wife is not safe around white men.
He might have a valid
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So I have a little bit of an issue with two things. One, every time I turn on the news or look at the paper, which I don't do often, like I said, but when I do, every perpetrator or possible suspect is black, when clearly there are more white suspects than perpetrators, according to the FBI crime stats, who we don't control the stats on. So no one can tell me, oh, you know, you guys are rigging the numbers. No, you guys are making very accurate reports. You know what I mean? So where are all these videos? Why are 70 or 80% of our jails filled with minority people of African American, Latino descent, as opposed to whites? Where are they?
Yeah, it comes down to economics and job opportunities.
Yeah.
You can equate it to what's going on in France. France has, I think it's 6% population is Muslim,
Right.
but 60% of the inmates in prison are Muslim.
Right.
So it's the
Wow.
same thing. You know, blacks here in this country are 20%, but probably 40, 50% are incarcerated. But wherever there are no jobs, that's where you're gonna have the crimes.
But we're not running around raping people to the to the extent of that. You know, 4,000 a year is bad, but
Yeah, see,
it's
rape is
sure-
not an economic crime. Rape is
Exactly.
a crime of violence,
right.
where someone is.
So that's my whole point. Why are we making up so much more of the judicial system when we're really not making up the majority of their crimes?
Well, that was one crime. Because what about assault?
Yeah, listen, we have them beating robbery. We're running around robbing people because we have no money in the hood.
And then we assaulted them, hit them over the
Right.
head.
But other than that, listen,
And then they
Mustafa, go on my Facebook page and go back probably a couple of weeks, and you can pull one up and just pull any. I think I have 2010 through 2013. It still doesn't make sense to me. Well, okay, the jails.
There's a different justice system in the courts too. So they're gonna get lawyers, and it's not gonna be a legal aid. Not to
Right.
say that a private lawyer is better, but when you are paying someone a lot of money.
Right,
to
that doesn't always
represent
work
you,
out. Let me be the first to tell you
yeah,
that doesn't always work out.
Doesn't always work
That's-
out. However, there are a lot of people that believe those that have
You have a better chance.
You have a better chance in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, but I mean, you have cases where I'm quite sure not all these people, the white people that are involved or could afford their attorneys too.
Right.
We in an economic setting where it's getting difficult for no matter what race you are, really.
Right.
And it seems like the law almost favorites.
Right.
It's kind of
almost
favorable to them.
Right. Sometimes it's almost like not a matter of race, but a matter of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Poor knows no color. Rich knows no color. Rich only knows one color, green.
Right.
Not according to what this man is saying here. Here it is. He's a wealthy attorney, and he's saying that he's fearful of his kid walking down the street with certain kind of clothes on. We had a comment from a person. I'm not going to mention her name.
Okay.
She's like, she said we have a culture and a way of dress that has been adopted by many others, including Asian and white kids. She said, I beg to differ that a black man wearing colorful, non-branded AF hoodie would actually be treated any different from a black man in a demonic Rockwell hoodie. So, what she's trying to say is that, okay, I take for it, we have a certain clothing that basically we're responsible for,
Right.
The hood and things like that. But I mean, I don't see how we're responsible for that kind of style where we're not the manufacturers that promote that in the kind of neighborhood. I took it to another level with her. We don't own. We're wearing what somebody has made that thinks that we would adapt to. How is it our culture clothing if we don't own anything
Well, I would
that
say
makes
responsible in the fact that we're trendsetters, not that we're responsible for what clothing manufacturers are making out, because that's what we're buying.
But then you have
But-
Tommy Hilfiger, who made millions setting a trend. I mean, he wasn't a trendsetter. He was the trendsetter.
He's
at the bag
not the
outline.
trendsetter. He set a style, and we became the trendsetters when we start rocking it. That's what
Right.
happens. So now, all right. So now you have white children in suburbia. They're listening to rap music. They're calling each other the N-word. They're sagging their pants. They need every pair of Jordans, where they were quite happy wearing skips and boat shoes at one time, but they're not being gunned down.
Exactly. I feel like this man a little bit. I mean, I'm scared to send my kid out in the street dressed a certain way, because I know for a fact, you know, I've seen them with my own eyes profile kids a certain kind of way from the hoodies and stuff like that and that. But then again, you know, you see them do it to the kid that's not dressed that way. It's like you can't
How
win.
often is that though? How often is the child in suburbia that's not dressed like that targeted? Because, you know, guess what? The kid from Columbine, he wasn't he wasn't in the newest Jordans either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The kid that took his mother's shotgun to her class and killed her and all the babies in her class, guess what? He wasn't in the newest Jordans in the hoodie either.
Mental illness.
Yeah, he came with a gothic look. You know, I'm more fearful. You think you would be more fearful of the gothic look than a hoodie?
That's scary.
You know what I mean?
That's
so,
scary.
Yeah, so, but,
Yeah. So yeah, no, they tend to, looks like, use the clothing as a way to stereotype that thug look.
But when you know that, when you know that's what they're going to do, when you know they're going to profile someone based on their dress, you have to, perhaps like this attorney's doing, make sure your kids aren't profiled or stopped just
Well, you
based
can't do
on
that. You're
just
telling your child to not
just based on their looks.
individuality.
I call
No,
it
train
giving
your
them an
officers.
edge.
No, train your officers.
That's
Because
true.
I can
That's
guarantee
true.
you, some of those officers, they come
but as a
home and they're
parent,
wearing hoodies.
as a
Their kids
parent,
wearing
as a
hoodies.
parent, I can't control the officers.
Right.
You know, I can only suggest that they be better trained, but I can control my child and how they go out and how they present themselves. That I can control.
I can't do the slave mentality thing. That's what it comes down to. We will whip your children until you whip them into line. So stop telling your children, stop wearing hoodies, stop telling them to wear the Jordans, make them dress like this, or we will do X, Y, and Z. So you whip the parents into a fearful slave mentality, so that they will turn around and whip their children into a fearful slave mentality. It's too much. I can't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it either. I can't do it either. But percentages.
And I like loafers and khakis, but I'm not, you know. But I will not be the parent that says wear them. Yes, I put my son in that when he was younger, just as quickly as I put him in Jordans.
So
but that was because that's what we liked, not because I was afraid that somebody was going to gun him down on the streets. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a tough call. Again, you know, every parent has their way of raising their kids. So I can't fault the brother for raising his kids. It's not something I would do. Certainly doesn't sound like something you would do. But you know, you want your kids to grow up and not be victims by the police. And if you know that if they're dressed a certain way, the likelihood of them being profiled and being pulled over or stopped, you try to reduce those percentages if you can. But it's a balancing act. You know, you want your kids to have their own identity and to live life to its fullest.
Well, until he can tell his children to wake up and not be brown skinned, I really don't think the khakis versus the hoodies will make much of a difference right now.
They probably wear it, then as soon as they get outside, they flip into a hoodie.
Even if they don't, unless you're going
that.
to change your skin color, unless people are going to change their view on our people, then really it won't make the difference. Listen, when they were bombing churches, those little girls were in dresses. They didn't have not a hoodie on.
Right.
When they were gunning down men during protests in the civil rights movement, they weren't in hoodies. They were in khakis. That was the style of the day. Khakis, loafers, hard bottom shoes.
It's based on the color of their skin.
Yes. They were in dress shirts, ties, not even bow ties, ties. That was the order of the day for the dress at the time. They were gunned down.
Okay, now for being on the inside, the movie Selma, based on civil rights and everything, how far do you think, from your own personal experience, professional experience, how far do you think our judiciary system has come since then? I know it's kind of broad, but if there's anything that that you think from your own personal experience that improved the most, because I find that some laws stay the same for damn near years since the existence of the country. Like what is something that you saw that it was great that it changed? Like from your own personal perspective.
Well, more opportunities, and that's what people were marching for. Not just voting rights, but also to be treated equally. And now you have more black judges. Right. You have more minority lawyers. So there's access to the criminal justice system. Before, it was very difficult. So that's progress. Although some people may say just because a person has my color doesn't mean that they're going to treat me fairly. But for the most part, just seeing more people of color in the criminal justice system has benefited.
When you said that, we was talking about again that guy Dwayne Johnson. Clarence Thomas was the person who was the deciding factor on the case not being able to be brought back for a civil suit in a certain way. So
that's a prime example. Just because someone
has your skin color, he's on your side,
right,
or on the side of right. Too many people in the take. I don't know. Well, let me ask you about for you, because your people need you. The system needs you. What are the chances that you would be running for a judgeship? What can we do to? Is that out of your scope now? Because at one time that was what you wanted, right?
Yeah, one time. Right now, I think I have like 5 more years I can retire.
Okay.
From the court system, so I'm counting the time down now.
Right.
But I'm always looking for opportunities where I can be of service. So if something presents itself, I would take advantage of it.
Nice. Any mentoring programs that you have going on now that you are looking to start?
Well, I'm part of a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and we just had a mentoring program where we had 33 children who graduated from the program. Okay. Take them on college tours and introduce them to successful people in the community, help them in school. So we had the ceremony in at Mercy College. So it's important, though, these mentoring programs, because a lot of young people do need to see some people who are doing some positive things.
Would you want to give the information out for that mentoring program? Because I'm sure there are people that'll watch that could use that information or may know someone that could use it.
Yeah, this one just finished, so when it starts up again, I'll definitely provide that information.
Okay, so we'll Facebook it.
Okay.
We'll throw it up on the Ustream site. We'll definitely have to follow up because that's a vital necessity in our community.
Definitely.
We come from a very multicultural community. People think, like I say, I'm not from a hood, because I'm not from a hood. I'm from a neighborhood. You know what I mean? But
I don't mind. I tell people I'm from the hood.
Not me. I'm not.
My first.
You're from right here. I'm from you're from right here, and I'm like from right here. You understand? I'm from the outskirts of the hood, so I have a hood pass, but I'm not from the hood.
All right.
You know, I travel easy through the hood, but I'm from a neighborhood.
Okay. I may use that, but I don't mind telling my students. Don't let the suit and tie fool you.
Right.
I'm from the hood. My first degree came from the streets. First degree, so
every time he says that, I'm like, "Hey, what was you doing?"
That was the foundation.
Over there.
Just observing, and that's what I try to tell people. You gotta be able to look and learn, and you don't have to be in the mix to know what's going on and know when it's time to bounce and say, "All right, I'll see you tomorrow."
Right.
But just being aware of what's going on and being able to succeed.
You said net, like you said, introducing people. Because I myself, in my line of work, I used to surprise like a lot of young black kids like myself. I work in the neighborhood too, 20 years, so I know you're talking about. And they would be surprised to come in and see somebody like me doing the exam. It's like they never expected to see that. Mm-hmm. And they would ask me all the time, "How did you do this?"
Right.
And, how did you do that? I tried to, talk to kids on the side myself, and I know you do too. I feel there's more that we have to do for our youth. So I think we have to set up more guidelines for them to be able to communicate across the board. My kid and any other kid should be able to come and ask people like you and I questions or
Right.
Ms. Gabie questions where we
Right.
could give them input.
Right.
You know, I feel that's very important. You know, what would be some kind of structure where we could set up? You know, does it start with schools? Does it start with church? Where do you think is the first step that we need to concentrate on?
Yeah, there's no first step, but you know, the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
Like you said, the schools, a lot of the schools have after-school programs. They have mentoring programs, but schools need to be open.
Right.
You know, after 3 o'clock. But also churches. A lot of churches. My son, matter of fact, tomorrow he's in a mentoring program, so they're having a ceremony. So a lot of churches have mentoring program, but parents have to be able
be active.
to be active and find the different programs and resources, because there are resources. I know a lot of people complain and say there's nothing for the kids to do,
Right.
but there are things for the kids to do. But oftentimes, the parents have to
They have to
find
be diligent.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
parents are not that active in their child's upbringing. A lot of it has to do with whether it's a single or a double family household. People need to work.
Mm-hmm.
People need to work, especially
Absolutely.
those of us who, you know, I put my son through private school. I need to work to do that.
Right.
I'm blessed in the sense that I have a very strong family structure.
Yeah.
But what about those who may not have that? So now,
Makes it
how do
harder.
we reach out to the parents? You know, because we're in a situation now in the community now where don't talk to my kid, don't say nothing to my kid.
Right.
So now you actually have to reach out, not even to the kid and to the schools. You have to gather up the parents who don't know any better, or the ones who do know better, but they don't know where to start. Like, you need to educate them first. How do you reach out to those parents?
That's a good question, because when people are not looking for the help,
Right.
when people don't want the help, it's hard for you to interject yourself, even though you may know of some resources, positive things to do. So I really don't have the answer to that when people are not looking for the help.
But what about the ones that are but may not know where to find the help, or just don't have the time? They want what's best for their children.
I could intervene with that if you don't mind a little bit. I'm back to school myself, right? And I've noticed that there's not a lot of young Black American kids. A lot of the kids that are in school taking advantage of the situation or Black people from other countries and a lot of other ethnic minorities that are there. I just don't see a lot of our youth getting in, and I try to talk to them like, listen, it's so simple. It's such a business. I mean, it can help put money in your pocket now as well as going to school. They giving you money to help you for your lifestyle. If you don't have any money, you can get little jobs by going to school. All you got to do is just attend. It seems like our youth just lacks motivation now, and it's scary, you know?
It is scary. As a professor in college, a lot of the students are not motivated.
Really?
You got to encourage them, but they lack discipline.
Okay.
And that's what it takes. You got to be disciplined. You got to be focused. And being focused is just being committed to a certain goal.
Right.
And when you don't have a lot of young kids that don't have hope, they've given up, and it comes back to what's going on in the household. I taught last semester a juvenile delinquency course, and the research shows that a lot of kids that engage in juvenile delinquency is because of peers, peer pressure, but a lot of them there's no discipline in the home.
Right.
No discipline in the home, and then when they go out on the street, they're with people who are doing negative things.
Right.
You know, there's a saying, iron sharpens iron. So
Right.
I try to tell students, if you're with people that are positive, what are you going to do?
You're gonna do positive.
What are you going to talk about?
Right.
Positive things. But when you're with someone who's doing negative things, you're going to end up doing negative things as well.
How old is your son?
My oldest son is 20.
So he's already past that mark. The youngest one.
He's 14, and then my daughter's 15.
So he's right around. Even her, she's right around that age. How do you manage to keep on top of them? Because we were all 14 and 15, and you know, my parents were on top of me, and you still had that time where that takes that 1 minute to go left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you manage to be the role model you are, because they see positive role models in their home, but still instilling them not to succumb to the peer pressure?
Well, putting them in programs, right? Knowing who their friends are.
Right.
But after school, they're always involved. They're both on the track team. Son's also playing tennis. You know, they're going to church. They're engaged. They're doing other things. They really don't have much time to do something that's.
You don't need much time. You need a minute.
Yeah, right. Because there's a
minute.
fine
As
line
you know,
between success and failure.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
As you know, Todd was the same way. Football, played the violin, theater.
I didn't know that. Okay.
You know, he did all of that, and then look, 30 life in prison for a body.
Right.
You understand? Because all it takes, you can have all this going on, but it takes that 1 minute in time.
Change your whole life. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where they say, you know what? These are my real friends, but this looks interesting over here. Let me go see what this is about. And females are not safe from it anymore.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like, you have your children and they're very structured. How do you keep them so structured where, or is it just you hope that 1 minute in time doesn't come where something catches their eye that says, you know what, I'm not interested in this right now. Let me check out and see what this is about.
Yeah, you just got to pray that they'll make the right decision. You know, you lay the right foundation so that they know right from wrong. And, you know, if they do make a mistake, you support them. But you got to discipline them.
You kind of have to pray in general with all the mistaken situations that's going on. Well, now I think the mistaken thing is gotten kind of cleared up a lot with DNA and cameras all over the place. Now it's a little bit easier to get, you know, relieved of something like that. But back in the days, 20 years ago, I mean, if they wanted to solve a case, you grab your son and, you know, plant evidence,
pay a witness to identify.
God forbid if a person has some kind of previous infraction, like he's on parole or something like that, and I mean, he knows if he goes to trial, it's a cold chance in hell that he may not beat this, so he might cop out to something.
And a lot of them do.
They don't want to take the chance.
Take 5 years, or you go to trial, you're facing 25.
Right. Yeah, the district attorney's office, not the good guys like you, but the other ones, we've seen them, you know, look at prosecutorial witnesses and say, this is what you're going to say. And you know those 2 open cases you have?
Right.
I'll make those go away. Because your little bit of 12 years is nothing that's going to hold to this 25 years that I can get on my way out the door. You know? So it's disheartening. It's disheartening. But we're going to wrap up because we've probably been chatting for about 2 hours.
Oh, it was good. Yeah, good
this
conversation, enlightening. Definitely
you can come back up anytime.
Great.
When you have something that's going on, when there's something that we need to chat about, a movement, anything, you know, you decide that you want to do some mentorship programs, come up here. We're going to promote it.
All right,
we're going to get these babies straight.
We're going to try to do our part. I think everyone has, we all have a purpose in life, but we should also do what we can to assist those that need help.
So are you gonna do any private practice of law? Or are you just teaching and?
Teaching and working in the court system is enough for now.
Right.
So
not taking on any cases.
Well, I can't. I'm not allowed to take any private cases because I work for the judge.
Oh, right.
So.
But the community's missing out there.
But
you could be of some service with all your expertise and and your fair treatment.
That's what it's about. The practice of law, it should be about, not about making money. You know, there's a lot of money to be made, but we definitely need people who are going to be fair and make sure that justice is served. Because there's a lot of people. That's why you have protests. They don't believe justice is being served.
Right. Do you this is gonna be my last question for the night because I could just go on and talk to you because law is a topic that I love. But did you protest at all, or did you allow your children? Did they want to? First of all, did they do their own small type of activism?
My son that's in college in Connecticut. He said. It's interesting because the majority of people that are protesting, they're not black.
No, they're
whites.
not. They're whites.
Whites are at the protests.
That's right.
On my son's college campus, 2:00 in the morning, they were out there protesting, but it was a white person student that led it. I was at a protest down by the courthouse. And it's majority white people that
we went
that
Times Square, and it was amazing.
That's the thing, though. But you know, we say that, right? But then you know, we have workplace discrimination when white people are there. And, you know, the same person that, it's like a devil's advocate. Like, they protest with us, but if it's an opportunity that involves monetary kind of thing, that's another level of discrimination.
Listen, I could deal with you wanting to take food over my food. You know, honestly, you got to feed your babies. Like, if you want to stand with me so that my children not killed off, but want to beat me off a job, I can take that. You understand?
Yeah.
We're both fighting for the same job. That's what it is. It's a rat race.
Yeah.
That's all fair.
Competition.
You know what I mean? That's fair competition.
Right.
You beat me out, I beat you out. That workplace, that's nothing. That's how that's supposed to go. But if you stand with me on the battle lines, I'm in.
It may not always appear that way, though. You know, it may not always appear like, you know, it's a level playing ground.
Well, I'm not saying it's a level playing. In the workplace, if we're both competing for the same plate of food, then no, it's not supposed to be fair. You're trying to feed your family. I'm trying to feed my family. You know what I mean? So I don't expect it to be fair.
But who gets the job? Is it based on merit or is it based on nepotism?
It's going to be based on nepotism. It's going to be based on color. Lots of times,
could be, right.
A black male, a female, or a non-white person with better credentials and degrees and background and experience will lose out to someone who is, you know, non-ethnic because of. But guess what?
Well,
I understand they're going
okay,
on.
but
Still,
you have the factor of getting the job, but there's a much more deeper factor is taking a person's economic freedom by firing them from a job. There's a lot more discrimination in persons being relieved of their duty from a workplace than it is discrimination getting a job. You know.
Right. No, I agree. And I still will say I will not turn you away from fighting on the front lines of civil liberties with me. Still and all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you on that, Ms.
Find
Gabie.
a new job, get shot in the street. You want to watch me so my babies are not being shot down the street like dogs? I'm in. Let's do it.
In politics, there's a phrase: no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, just permanent interests.
Okay.
So, and that's the way
they're gonna use that.
That's
like
the way
that.
they work it in politics. I could be against you on one issue, but if we can agree on another issue, there probably won't be any change in the criminal justice system unless there's this continuing protest.
Right.
And we need as many people as possible.
It's got to keep going. It can't die off now.
Right.
The minute it dies off, we're going to be back at square one. The same issue.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Like I said, you're always welcome up here.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
You know, you have something going on. I love the fact that you're a hometown fave.
From the hood.
From the hood. Evander stands up. I didn't go to Evander.
And Olinville, right?
Olinville. He's really from the hood, right?
From 41 to Olinville to Evander.
And look at him now. Look at him now.
Go Tigers.
And again, this is the Miss Gabie Show, Mr. Adrian Armstrong, the house of dbnebmusic. Thank you. Come up anytime. Let's do some promo. Let's maybe put our heads together at some point. We got enough resources where we can kind of put our heads together and make something happen.
Yeah, let's do that. Definitely.
Let's do it.
Provide the information to the community.
Yeah.
Maybe grab up some of these babies.
You gotta get yourself a like page on Facebook.
Yeah.
We gonna roll it down.
Yeah.
Hit up the Miss Gabie like page.
Yeah, right. Come over to the Miss Gabie fan page on Facebook and like my page. Leave us some statuses.
I try to stay off Facebook, but we'll see.
We'll see.
All right.
You folks have a good night. I'll see you when I see you. Hopefully soon. Hit me
Bye.
up.
Good
Bye-bye. Good night.